The P-3 boss's identity is a lot more elusive than the previous two have been. Minos and Sisyphus both had books, corpses, and paintings in their home layer, but this next one has none of that. This is why there's so much discussion on who it'll actually be. It's so unclear. Sure, Ulysses is mentioned in 8-2, but that's easily interpreted as a metaphor. Some candidates make more sense than others, but remember, this boss fight in P3 will be the hardest final boss fight in the entire game. Just to unlock this level, you have to P-rank the entire main game and beat Sisyphus. Whoever it'll be, they have gigantic boots to fill. So, let's get to the bottom of this. We'll look at the previous Prime Souls first, to know what we're working with. The Prime Souls closely align to the Skullkeys. The red skull and blue skull align with the secondary color of Sisyphus and Minos respectively, but it goes deeper than that. The blue skull has the Mercury symbol on the forehead, and Mercury symbolizes the mediative spirit, fluidity, change, volatility. It is occasionally symbolized with snakes, representing the snaking, shifting nature of Mercury. It's fluid. What does that align with? Minos Prime! Not only does Minos have a noticeable snake motif in his attacks, his actions also closely align with Mercury. He tried to shift the system. Hell, he wanted to remake it, offer salvation to the sinners, change it from the inside. Minos, similar to Mercury, is also emotionally volatile. He engages V1 out of rage, not at V1 specifically, but at machine kind in general. His whole motivation is that he feels the punishment of hell aren't just. And yes, he did want to save everyone in hell, not just in lust. In 5.1 there's this mural. Pause to read it if you care, but Minos, or at least his allies, wanted to rescue sinners all the way down from wrath. If they rescued sinners from wrath and lust, why not all the other layers too? And then there's the red skull, which has the sulfur symbol on the forehead, which represents the masculine spirit. Combustion, explosives, a very active and sometimes destructive force. What does that align with? Sisyphus Prime! Not only does Sisyphus have the radiant power of the literal fucking sun, he has a whole bunch of explosive attacks, and he actively breaks out of his flesh prison on his own. And he is also objectively, indisputably, extremely masculine. Just look at his physique. He does also have red dreadlocks and bloody limbs in his second phase, matching the red of the skull. Then there's the third skull, which is different from the first two. The white one. It has salt on the forehead, and salt represents the body. It's passive, non-reactive, and enduring. It represents the physical. This is a huge deviation from the other two skulls, which both symbolize strictly spiritual things. The white skull, in-game, is also only found in secrets, usually hidden away in tombs, corpses, or statues. You can't interact with them or open doors with them. That's also a deviation from the common skulls. Together, Mercury, Sulfur, and Salt form the Tria Prima. Tria Prima literally translates to 3 primes. This should definitively convince you that the skulls and prime souls are connected. On top of that, in the revamped developer commentary, the developers were extremely cautious about saying anything about the symbols on the skulls. Listen.
Okay, I'm filtering my brain very carefully. Alchemical materials are very fun and interesting. This skull has the symbol for Mercury, which obviously is very important in historical alchemy. And I just don't feel confident saying more.
If the skull symbols had no lore importance and were only for colorblind, why is Heckteck so cautious? And given this is literally the 3 primes, what else would it represent if not the 3 prime bosses? Speaking of how salt deviates from Mercury and Sulfur, a lot of things are deviations in Act 3, actually. First off, for Act 1 and 2, we've had fights with V2. In Act 3, we instead fight the Earth Mover, another supreme machine, sure, but it's vastly different. In Act 1 and 2, we've also never seen any eyes on enemies at all. In Act 3, we have the Providence with a massive detailed eye breaking this pattern. In Act 1 and 2, we've had a clear major figure who was slain by Gabriel and became a prime soul. They both had books, paintings, corpses, and motifs that play in the second level of their home layer. Focus specifically on the music. Both 2-2 and 4-2 had prominent motifs. In the soundtrack, these motifs both fade out into the end of the song. Listen. And Sisyphus' theme? Broad has no such motif at all. Every song just fades out and transitions into the next. This is yet another huge deviation. Where am I going with this? The third skull and a lot of things in Act 3 all deviate from the pattern of Act 1 and 2. This is why I think P-3 will deviate too, just like all these other examples. I'm not quite sure how, but this pattern of deviation suggests that the P-3 boss will be vastly different from the previous two. We might not even be fighting a prime soul at all. We might fight something physical, if Salt is any hint about it, as Salt largely represents the physical, the body. It is indifferent and non-reactive, the inverse of volatility. That's the two major hints I could find for the third prime boss that tells us meaningful stuff. Salt and deviation. Now, let's see what popular candidates align with this. Here's my scoring system. There will be 3 requirements. The more requirements are met, the more points a candidate gets. Whoever has the most points, I will look into further. Here are the requirements. 1. The boss has to finish the Tria Prima and represent Salt. This is a must-have, otherwise it wouldn't make any sense. 2. The boss must have been established as a proper character in the Ultra Kill universe, so no Optimus Prime. These first 2 are worth 5 points. 3. The boss should deviate from the previous Prime Soul somehow, to adhere to the pattern of deviations. This is only worth 3 points instead of 5 as it isn't as important. Alright, now let's apply this to the candidates. We'll get the quick ones out of the way first. First candidate, Jesus. No, we're not doing Jesus. Hakita specifically recontextualized the cross to represent the tree of life to avoid connections to real-world religions. We are not getting Jesus Prime. Automatically disqualified. And same goes for Judas. Judas's whole thing is betraying Jesus. Jesus does not exist in this universe, and thus Judas would have no significance. Automatically disqualified. And then there's Antigone. She decided to go against the king's laws and still bury her brother after his death, so he could go to the afterlife. She remained steadfast and indifferent to tyrannical rule, which could maybe align with Salt. I'm 50-50 on this, but to give the benefit of the doubt, 5 points. Though her name is only mentioned once in what is probably just a saying, so I can't give any points for being a confirmed character. And for requirement 3, Antigone is not a Greek king or even a ruler, which means she deviates from the previous 2 prime souls. 3 points. That's 8 points out of 13 for Antigone. Surprisingly good option, but she lacks the prevalence required to be the final boss of the entire game. Now for the ones you probably waited for. Ulysses and Lucifer. 79% of you voted for one of these 2 in my poll, so I'll give these 2 extra attention. I'll do Ulysses first. Ulysses doesn't really represent Salt at all. If we go by his depiction in the Odyssey, Ulysses is a strong-willed individual. He loves war, the fight, the struggle. Ulysses is a badass war king, sure, but he isn't Salt. He's Sulfur. He has too much overlap with Sisyphus. No points. Ulysses' existence in the Ultrakill universe is shaky, at best. His name is only muttered once in a Hell book that isn't about him. He could definitely just be a metaphor. Even if we assume this one phrase to be literal, which you shouldn't with the Hell books, all it would say is that he's frozen on top of a sea somewhere, giving him the absolute benefit of the doubt in that he exists. I'm giving him 5 points. Don't call me biased. Ulysses wouldn't deviate from the previous two at all. He is a famous strong-willed Greek king, just like the ones before him. In fact, his whole deal has way too much overlap with Sisyphus, so I can't give him any points. So that's 5 out of 13 points for Ulysses. That's slower than Antigone, which is, of course, because he's too similar to the previous two and he just doesn't represent Salt at all. Now, let's talk Lucifer. I originally thought it was Lucifer, but I have changed my mind. Lucifer just straight up doesn't have anything to do with Salt. His question from 5S implies Mercury, probing for justice. I cannot connect Lucifer to Salt without writing fanfiction, so no points at all for that. Though Lucifer is fully confirmed as an entity that exists in the Ultrakill universe, through 5S and the 8-3 book. And of course, Lucifer deviates by being an angel instead of a dead human, so that's 3 points. That's 8 out of 13. That is just as much as Antigone. That's not perfect at all. The deal breaker with Lucifer is that, as far as I can see, Lucifer has absolutely no connection to Salt at all within this lore. This was a dead end for quite a while. Lucifer had always been my main option. I wasn't sure who it could be until it dawned on me. The true best character is the very first that communicates to you, the one who has been staring at us right in the face this entire game, one that has had a lot more volume of lore than Lucifer ever had. Hell itself. Let's quickly run Hell itself for the scoring system. Hell definitely represents Salt in being a literal physical place. It also aligns with permanence, as Hell itself, just like Salt, is non-volatile and cannot be altered. It is permanent. Not even God could unmake it, and Hell is eternally malicious. It aligns perfectly with Salt. For requirement 2, of course Hell exists. Where do you think we spend this entire game? 5 more points. And for the deviation, the entire level, the entire world of Ultrakill coming to kill you is a significant deviation from the previous two, which were prime souls from Greek kings. In fact, this deviation structure mirrors the ones with V2. The first two Supreme Machine fights were with V2, a relatively small, fast, nimble opponent. We get 2 V2 fights and then the Earth Mover, a boss fight where you fight and destroy the level itself. It perfectly mirrors the structure. First 2 Prime Souls, then fighting and destroying the geometry you can stand on. Hell itself. This is a perfect 13 out of 13. But wait, there's more evidence. P3 will be the level that reveals his Hell's sentience inside the game. In P2, the human entry links to Data 00, which is linked to explain why the Hell expedition stopped. We know the humans stopped the Hell expeditions because of Hell's sentience. Just look at the P2 ARG text. Pause and read if you haven't seen this before. But either way, Hell's sentience will be revealed in P3, and I think it will be a way more sophisticated reveal than just text on a screen. This would align with Hell being the boss. Another thread is the Soul Orbs. There are 3 Soul Orbs, just like there are 3 Prime Bosses. There's a blue one, a yellow one, and a red one. Blue and yellow aligns with Minos and Sisyphus respectively, which implies the third, the red one, is for P3. Red is a color strongly associated with Hell itself. Every time Hell speaks or writes, the text is red. Hell's eye at the death screen is red. Gray and red also line up with the demon's color scheme, always red and gray or white. According to the terminals, demons are made from the mass of hell, implying hell is taking pieces of itself to make these things, which would make the color scheme line up. There's a few more points of evidence, but we'll cut it here so this video doesn't get too long. So, this is my new personal theory. Hell itself. There is just one major Achilles heel to this theory. How the fuck can this single sad little robot beat hell itself? Not even God could unmake hell. For V1 to kill hell, it would have to be stronger than the literal creator of the Ultra Kill universe. The second thing is that hell itself could just teleport V1 away. It has the power to warp things. It's implied hell is reviving V1 every time it dies. Hell would have to let V1 kill it, or revive V1 to kill it. Which brings the question, does hell want to die? I, of course, can't answer that. But, I've had a theory for quite some time that Ultra Kill will have multiple endings. One will be at the end of 9-2, a cinematic, as expected, just like at the end of 6-2 and 3-2. Another cinematic would be at the end of P-3, a reward for beating the game's toughest bosses, then maybe an ending for beating the Encores. To have V1 Ultra Kill Hell itself would be an awesome alternate ending, and a great reward for pulling through and actually P-ranking the entire game and killing all the prime bosses. It would just make sense that the reward for P-ranking the entire game is to kill the entire arena. I still believe Lucifer will be involved, but he won't be a main boss. He will be a fake out. Lucifer is just a supreme angel, not a prime soul. A fallen one, no less. That, and Lucifer isn't a fighter like Gabriel is. Either Lucifer is a really easy boss or he dies mid-fight, just like how the Panopticon did in P2. So that's it then. After Hell sees V1 effortlessly take on Gabriel, Minos, Sisyphus, and all the other climax bosses of the layers, Hell decides the machine is worthy, and makes itself vulnerable, to engage V1 in a final glorious fight, the final boss of the entire main game. Assuming Hell is reviving V1 every time it dies, this would mean that if Hell dies, V1 can't be resurrected anymore. The blue machine would be mortal, its fate sealed by its own violence, just like how Gabriel sealed his fate by killing the counselors. So, the main takeaway is that P-3 is gonna be fucking insane. I can't wait. Thanks for watching. I did a similar video to this before, which was we're not getting Ulysses. I unlisted that video because it was shit. Like, I didn't write a script for it. I just kinda thought in my head, I want to say this, this, and this, and then I recorded it across multiple days, which meant the original version had like different voices of different qualities. It was a pain to edit, so I just re-recorded the video just sucks. Don't watch it. But if you want to watch it anyway, the link's in the description. I also put all the credits for like the footage and the arts I used here. So if you saw anything, then there should be a link for that in the description. If there isn't a comment about it, then I'll probably fix it.